Imagine you are going through life, doing your own thing, working and developing. But suddenly someone appears and says, "How could you? It's your fault." And you start to doubt yourself. The feeling of guilt seeps in, eating you up from the inside, making you justify yourself. Prove your innocence, explain. But what if I told you that no one will ever be able to take you hostage with this manipulation again? People who try to make you feel guilty know exactly how to play on your emotions. They choose words that hit your weakest spots. You're selfish, you betrayed me, you hurt me, and you immediately try to justify yourself. But wait, don't rush to fall into this trap. Guilt is a powerful means of control. Whoever can make another person feel guilty gains power over them, as the guilty person wants to fix the situation, atone for their guilt, and return everything to how it was. And this is where it gets interesting. Imagine you refuse to help a friend because you were busy, and they say, "Well, thanks. If I had known you were like this, I wouldn't have asked." You feel a pang of guilt. It's a trap. Or another example, a relative says to you, "You've completely forgotten about family. We don't need you." And you immediately start to berate yourself. What if I'm really doing something wrong? Stop! This is just another manipulation. Let's figure out why this works. Why is it so easy to catch you in a feeling of guilt? The answer is simple. You are a good person. You don't want to hurt others. You strive to be decent and caring. But this is what makes you vulnerable. Manipulators sense your weak spots. They know you fear appearing bad and use your values against you. If you don't learn to see these patterns, you will constantly feel guilty for things you didn't do. So what should you do? How can you protect yourself without becoming a cold and indifferent person? Now I will share some principles that will help you break this vicious cycle once and for all. The first principle: separate facts from emotions. If someone accuses you, ask yourself, what did I really do? For example, you couldn't help a friend. That's a fact. But did you do something terrible? No. Everything else is just emotions that they are trying to impose on you. The second principle: don't justify yourself. As soon as you start justifying yourself, you've already fallen into the trap, because justification is an admission of guilt. But you are not guilty. Instead of justifying yourself, take a firm stance. Instead of saying, "Sorry, I couldn't help," say, "Yes, I couldn't help because I had other commitments." Do you feel the difference? In the first case, you are justifying yourself, while in the second, you are simply stating a fact. The third principle: don't let others decide if you are good or bad. Only your own values determine how you should act. For example, someone tells you, "You're a bad son because you rarely call." But what if you don't have the opportunity to call more often? Does that make you bad? No. But they are trying to convince you of that. So don't rush to agree. The question is not about who you are, but about who is trying to convince you of that and why. The fourth principle: learn to say no without feeling guilty. People are used to using guilt to get their way. But if you learn to refuse without remorse, their manipulations will stop working. For example, a colleague asks you to cover for them, and you can't. You might start to feel guilty. Or you can simply say, "I understand it's difficult for you, but I can't either." That's it. End of manipulation. The fifth principle: don't take on other people's emotions. If someone is angry, that's their emotion, not your fault. You can't control how people perceive your words and actions. You can only control your intentions. If you didn't mean to hurt anyone, but someone still got hurt, that's no longer your problem. People can feel bad for various reasons, and often look for someone to blame. Don't become that guilty one if you haven't done anything wrong. The sixth principle: maintain emotional balance. When someone tries to manipulate you, your main task is not to get emotionally involved. If you stay calm, the manipulation will lose its power. For example, if someone says, "You hurt me," instead of immediately apologizing, ask, "How exactly?" You'll be surprised, but most of the time, people won't be able to give a coherent answer. Manipulations only work when you get emotionally involved. The seventh principle: remember that you owe nothing to anyone. Manipulators love to use the word owe. You owe me help. You are obligated to do what I want. But the truth is, you owe nothing to anyone except yourself. You are not obligated to do what doesn't suit you. You are not obligated to feel guilty for things you didn't do. Now imagine, tomorrow someone will try to make you feel guilty again. But now you know what to do. You won't justify yourself. You won't take on other people's emotions, and you won't react the way they expect you to. The next time someone says, "You are guilty," you will calmly ask, "Why do you think that?" The manipulator won't get what they want, and you will remain free. You already know how this mechanism works. You know that you are the master of your life. You choose what to feel. And now no manipulation can break you anymore. But what if the manipulator doesn't give up? If they start to pressure you harder? For that, there are more advanced techniques. If the manipulator doesn't back down, they will start to apply more pressure and use harsher methods. Here are some advanced techniques that will help you finally break the manipulation script. The first technique, calm mirroring. When you are accused, don't argue, don't justify yourself, and don't show emotions. Just repeat what the other person said in a calm tone. For example, if someone says, "You are a terrible friend, you never help me," instead of justifying yourself, calmly respond, "You think I never help you?" The manipulator loses control. They expected emotions, arguments, justifications, but received calmness. Their method no longer works. The second technique, blurred responsibility. Manipulators love to shift responsibility. They say, "I feel bad because of you, you ruined my day." Don't take that on yourself, respond. "That's strange, but I don't feel responsible for that." And don't carry that burden. People forget that their emotions are their responsibility. No one can make you feel guilty if you don't allow it. The third technique, repeating phrase. This technique is especially useful with close ones who regularly pressure you with guilt. For example, if your mom says, "You never call me, you don't care about me," you respond, "I call when I can and I love you." "But you could call more often." "I call when I can and I love you." No explanations, no justifications, just repeating the same phrase. The manipulator finds themselves at a dead end because their usual script no longer works. The fifth technique, pause for thought. When someone tries to manipulate you, don't react immediately. Say, "I need to think about this." This breaks the dynamic of manipulation. The manipulator expects your quick emotional reaction, and you step out of the game. For example, if a friend says, "You betrayed me, you don't help me," instead of justifying yourself, calmly respond, "I will think about this." In a day or two, the situation will no longer hold the same power. The sixth technique, breaking the pattern. The manipulator expects you to defend yourself and justify your actions, but you can confuse them with an unexpected reaction. For example, if someone says, "You are a bad person, you hurt me," you calmly respond, "Yes, maybe I'm not perfect." The manipulator was counting on a conflict, but you didn't give them a reason. The manipulation loses its meaning. How to feel confident when you refuse to take on someone else's guilt. First, remember, your opinion of yourself is more important than what others say. Manipulators latch onto your doubts. A confident person doesn't need justifications. Second, stop seeking approval. Many succumb to feelings of guilt because they fear judgment, but true friends and loved ones won't manipulate you. Third, trust your decisions. You have the right to say no. You have the right not to justify yourself. You have the right to live without guilt. Now, when someone tries to manipulate you, you will be ready. Remember these techniques. Apply them, and you will see how the world around you changes. People will start to respect you not because you please everyone, but because you know your worth. After all, in the end, what matters most is not what others think of you, but what you think of yourself.